Tony Bellew versus Adonis BC Light Heavyweight Championship of the World. Let's get into it. What can I tell you about the champion Adonis Stevenson? Well, according to somebody, a trainer, one of the best trainers in the world, Russ Anbar, who I did quite an extensive interview with. And for those of you who don't know who Russ Anbar is, he's the gentleman that does Rival Boxing or Rival Boxing Gear, and has done many boxing tutorial DVDs in the past. Well respected. His boxing resume is very special. A lot of respect for it because he took Otis Grant from being an amateur right through to being a world champion. So that's something for you to think about. He also was a trainer behind Lemur, who had all those string of knockouts. All world ranked fighters he's had. So yeah, top trainer. Not many trainers can say they've done that. In his opinion, he's got over 30 years experience. Adonis Stevenson is the #1 puncher. He says that Adonis Stevenson punches like a heavyweight for a guy his size. So that's a worrying sign for somebody such as Tony Bellew. Yes, Adonis Stevenson has been knocked out before, but nobody's invincible. And there's always a possibility if you get hit with a punch, you can get knocked out. But since then, Adonis Stevenson has made a lot of adjustments. And you've seen since what he did to Chad Dawson and against Travois Cloud, two world-class fighters. Now for Tony Bellew, Eddie Hearn has moved him into a position now where he is the next man in line to challenge for the world title. So he's done it the right way. Tony Bellew's first challenge for the world title against Nathan Cleverly. And I want to point out this fight. People say, well, you know, Adonis Stevenson's not Nathan Cleverly. Exactly. And here's my point. If you go to the second round of that fight, Bellew starts to unload on Cleverly. And Cleverly, Bellew's actually got his left hand out and throwing the right hand through. And Bellew's known as the bomber, yeah, because he's a big puncher. Now at world level, we're not talking about European level, we're talking about world level. Does Tony Bellew hit hard enough to be called the bomber and to have a style of a puncher, which he has? I don't think he does. He hit Cleverly with some big punches in the terms of Bellew being the bomber. And if you look at the second round, these are flush punches. Cleverly looked at him, put his hands in the air and went and did that dance. And I said that if Nathan Cleverly did that same thing against Kovalev, he'd get knocked out and the fight wouldn't go past 3 rounds. You're going to say, well, what's this got to do with Adonis Stevenson and Tony Bellew? It's simple. Tony Bellew doesn't hit, for me, hard enough to stop Adonis Stevenson. Secondly, Tony Bellew has been dropped by Bob Ajisev and dropped by Oval McKenzie. If those guys can drop him, could you imagine what Stevenson could do if he lands? It's not a matter of if, it's when he lands. Because I can imagine Bellew's going to try and keep Adonis at the end of the jab and try and land counter punches. Problem is with Bellew, I don't know if you've watched his fights, he has this very sloppy right hand. Very, very sloppy when he throws it. It's not a very accurate punch. And Bellew is a guy who fights in emotions and likes to get involved. At British and European level, you can make certain mistakes and get away with it. But against a guy like Adonis Stevenson, who has got one-punch knockout power, and at world level one-punch knockout power, you can't afford to make any mistakes. And where I can see Bellew trying to get on the jab and box, he won't just be boxing the crowd. He'll be boxing Adonis Stevenson, and he'll be probably boxing the referee and the judges as well. I only see Bellew winning this fight by knockout. That's the only way I can see this fight. There's no way I can see Bellew winning this fight on points. And I'll tell you why as well. Bellew's stamina in the second to later half of the fight, I think, is questionable. If you look at his fight against Bellew, Cleverly, in the second half of the fight, he faded away. He faded away. And where you think you need the engine at world level to push on, Bellew didn't have it. I also wonder whether Bellew has got stamina problems. It's another question. Has Bellew got stamina problems? Well, he's done 12 rounds twice with Chilimbe. That's Chilimbe. Chilimbe is not a big puncher. Bolonte, or what his name is not a big noted puncher. McIntosh, I don't know. Miranda, is he a big puncher? Yes, he's a big puncher at middleweight. But was he a big puncher at light heavyweight? That was the question. So for me, I see Stevenson winning this fight by knockout. I think Bellew makes a mistake. And at world level, Stevenson will catch him, I think. Could be interesting how Bellew reacts to getting hit by Stevenson. That's going to be key as to how long the fight goes. This fight could end up finishing in the first 3 rounds, or it could go to, later on in the fight. But I don't see the fight going to points. This fight is going to be about how much Tony Bellew can take and how much damage control he can have in this fight with Adonis Stevenson. I'm not saying Adonis Stevenson is Superman. Well, he is Superman, and that's his nickname. But what I am saying is I don't think Tony Bellew is equipped to beat Adonis Stevenson. He'll come and give it his best shot, but I'm afraid I don't think it's going to be enough. And I think Stevenson will land that left hand. And when he lands that left hand, Bellew can have all the plans he wants. He can have plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D, plan E, plan F, plan Z, plan double Z. When Adonis lands on his chin, it's going to be, shit, that hurt. How the hell do I get away from getting hit by this guy? And if he tries to engage, he'll get knocked out even faster. That's how I see it. The only thing I can see Stevenson losing this fight is if he becomes complacent and really disrespects Bellew. Otherwise, I wouldn't be surprised to see Bellew get knocked out at any point in time in this fight. I'm not giving him a chance. I think there's a big difference between a world title eliminator and a world title fight. And I just don't think Adonis Stevenson is the man for Bellew. I just don't think, he's going to do very well. Because when I look for somebody to beat a southpaw, I've got to look to Bellew and ask myself, well, does Bellew have a good straight right hand? He doesn't. He loops his right hand. And I wouldn't say Bellew is defensively cute. Can be hit, can be hurt, can be dropped. But when Stevenson hits him, he's going to stay there. And I think in some ways it's probably a good thing that he's fighting abroad, because he doesn't have that whole sort of home crowd riling him up and getting him all motivated. But at the same time, had he been at home with all those emotions, Bellew may have fought a reckless fight. Who knows? But we'll have to see what he's going to be like mentally. Can he hold it together as well abroad? So for me, I like Tony Bellew. I think he's a character, and I think he's vastly misunderstood as a fighter. I think he's a personality, but I just think that this fight against Adonis Stevenson is going to be painful. That was my thoughts. It's just a matter of when Stevenson lands and how much Bellew can take. I can't give you a prediction on this one, but apart from Stevenson by knockout, I'm out.